Members of the board, have you previously reviewed the resume of the meeting held on May 17, 2023? Upon your review of the resume, we will entertain a motion regarding the acceptance of that. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously. Mr. Michael.
The Board of Adjustment hears administrative appeals, variances, and conditional use requests. These hearings are quasi-judicial in nature. Quasi-judicial hearings are like evidentiary hearings in a court of law, however, less formal. All public testimony will be taken under oath, and anyone testifying before the BOA may be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits that the BOA considers are entered into evidence and made a part of the record. The giving of opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence in the record. After hearing the testimony and the arguments for and against the proposed action, and before making its decision, the BOA will consider the relevant testimony, the exhibits entered into evidence, and the applicable law. Because the decisions of the BOA relating to variances, conditional uses, and extensions of development orders for site plan approval are final, unless overturned by a court of competent jurisdiction, the county may issue development orders and permits for properties in accordance with the decision of the BOA. However, if the applicant requests the issuance of any such permit or order, and such order or permit is issued, the applicant and not the county shall bear any risk that such decision may be set aside, the development order or the permit may be revoked, or the development may be otherwise enjoined by the reviewing court. Any applicant for relief from a decision of the BOA for said actions, or any aggrieved party as defined by state law, may seek review of such decision by filing an appropriate pleading in a court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the BOA decision. The date of the BOA decision shall be the date that the BOA voted at the conclusion of the hearing. Whenever the BOA denies an application, no new application for an identical action can on the same parcel shall be accepted for consideration within a period of 180 days of the BOA decision. Any person aggrieved by a decision of the BOA relating to an appeal of an administrative decision may, within 15 days thereafter, apply to the circuit court for review. Each individual who wishes to address the board regarding a particular issue must complete a blue request to speak form and submit it to the clerk of the board. These forms are located on the table at the back of the commission chambers. You will not be allowed to speak until we receive one of these completed request to speak forms. We must have these completed forms for the public record.
All written or oral communication outside of this hearing with members of the BOA regarding matters under review today are considered ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are presumed prejudicial under Florida law and must be discussed and disclosed as provided in Board of County Commission Resolution 96-13 before decision by the board or on any administrative appeal, variance, or conditional use requests. The chair would ask, as each case is heard, that any board member who has been involved in any ex parte communication regarding the respective issue to please identify themselves and describe the communication. First case number CU 2023-07, 1600 Tony Street. Board members, has there been any ex parte communication regarding this case? Seeing none. Does anyone have knowledge or information obtained from a site visit or other sources? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I should say that I have not made a site visit, but I have traveled in the general, not on Tony Street that I know of, but I have traveled in that general neighborhood from time to time. So I'm somewhat familiar with what it looks like.
Counselor, I don't see any problem with that.
No.
No problem with that, sir. Does any board member intend to refrain from voting due to a voting conflict of interest? Seeing none. Will the individuals who are a party to this item please come to the podium, identify yourself, and address the record and wait to be sworn in by the clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
And were you provided a copy of staff's findings of fact?
Yes, sir.
And you understand all criteria must be met to grant the,
I do.
would you like staff to quickly synopsize it, and then
Yes, I
you
would,
can
yes.
address it as you see
Yes, sir.
fit? Staff, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Andrew Holmer, Escambia County Development Services. Once again, this is conditional use 2023-07. This is a location map. This is our zoning map showing the zoning on site as medium density residential. This is the future land use map. The future land use on the site is mixed use urban. This is an aerial map of the site. Since the time that aerial was taken, there has been clearing, especially in the front part. As part of the subdividing of the land, there are now individual houses built there. This is a public hearing sign. This is the reposting with the updated meeting date. Looking north into the subject property. Looking northeast into the property, you can see the new homes. And looking northwest into the property. Would you like me to go ahead into the staff findings, sir? Mr. Chairman, do you want me to do the findings?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what we're dealing with here, the applicant is seeking conditional use approval for construction of a townhouse subdivision on a 1.4 acre parcel, zoned medium density residential. In that zoning district, as it is for all of our districts, you have your permitted uses, which are broken down by residential, commercial, etc. And then you have your conditional uses. In medium density residential, townhomes, which are attached single-family subdivisions, those are only allowed as permitted uses on property that was zoned R3 or V4 previously. The previous zoning on this site was R2, which brings us to this townhouses being a conditional use. As to the specific criteria, first criteria deals with general compatibility. The proposed use can be conducted and operated in a manner that is compatible with adjacent properties and other properties in the immediate area. Findings on that. This project is located in an area of mixed single-family lots, including townhouse subdivisions and multifamily developments. These residential uses are compatible with the purpose of the MDR zoning district, and this request would also be compatible with the surrounding uses. Criterion B, this deals with facilities and services. Adequate facilities and services are available in the area and will be connected during the construction phase of the infrastructure. C deals with on-site circulation. Ingress and egress will be via Tony Street as depicted on the submitted site plan. D, nuisances and hazards. Nuisances and hazards are not anticipated with this proposed residential use in an existing residential area. E, solid waste. Solid waste service must be provided and will be reviewed at the construction plan stage. F deals with screening and buffering. Screening and buffering would not be required between these residential uses. Once again, this is an area of mixed uses, and there are two townhome subdivisions, Lanier Oaks and Lanier Gardens, immediately adjacent. G,
Mr. Chairman, where are those two subdivisions?
can you pull up the aerial for me, please? And, oh, sorry. Can you see the mouse? No. These two, this one and this one. Can you see that?
Okay.
Pre-existing townhouse subdivisions. Where was I? G, signs and lighting. Any signage for the use will need to be reviewed and permitted through the county. Exterior lighting will need to be directed inward. H, site characteristics. The site appears adequate to accommodate the proposed townhouse subdivision. I deals with specific use requirements, and findings on that is the LDC does not provide additional use requirements for townhomes. And staff recommends approval of the proposed use as requested.
Board members, do you have any questions of staff at this time? Mr. Page, would you like to make any comments?
Mr. Chairman, we've reviewed the staff comments, and certainly we concur with all of them. They've approved all 8 of the criteria that are part of this application package, and agree that the proposal before you this morning meets all those criteria, which we certainly agree with. I would point out too, Mr. Chairman, the units you see in the upper right-hand corner, those are 20, either 18 or 20. Let me look at my notes here. Those are 18 townhouses that share the common property line boundary fence with this particular project. And one that you cannot see, but it's in the same block, is located on the westerly edge of that block, and it faces Sanders Street. And there are 20 townhouses that are located there. So we have 18 adjacent to us, and then 20, which are 3 lots away. And then on the same block, but in the northwest corner of John Carroll and Sanders Street, there are 2 separate townhouse, or rather duplex apartments there. I mention all this to say that this is a mixed-use area. It has been for some period of time, and we think and are of the opinion that the proposal that we have before you this morning will be have the general compatibility with what's already out there, Mr. Chairman. So with those comments, unless the board has any further questions of me, that's all I have at this point.
Thank you, sir. If you'll just have a seat, we have several speakers.
Sure.
Speakers, if you will, we have to limit your addressing the board to 3 minutes. And if you're repeating something that has already been said before you, it's okay to say that you will be noted as whatever your position is on the project. And again, you will be timed. It'll be 3 minutes per speaker. The first speaker is Diane Suarez. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
State your name and address and be sworn.
Diane Squazzo, 1701 Tony Street.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I live right across the street from the proposed townhouses. And a few years ago, I was really excited because they finally put some sidewalks on Tony Street. It was becoming a lot busier. And with the elementary school right around the corner, we are a community of a lot of young children. We have children on bikes, we have moms walking their children with strollers, many dog walkers. So when I heard that there might be 12 townhouses, I was just thinking 12 townhouses, 24 plus more cars already on a busy street. I spoke to somebody about starting a petition, and they advised me that it might not be effective, that in-person attendance would be preferred, but because of a lot of work schedules and the time of this meeting, many could not attend. But since I am a very hard-headed person, I wanted to see this through. So let the record show that I'm submitting to all board members a copy of a petition signed in good faith by 63 members of the households, evidence that my neighbors are not in favor of these townhouses. The signatures are not random. I was able to get a public record list of all the houses that received the cards regarding this meeting. And I personally went, over the past few weeks, I personally went to every single house explaining. A lot of them didn't realize that they thought that these townhouses were at the end of the street where there already are townhouses being built. But when they found out that it was right in the middle of the street of single-family residential homes, they were very happy to sign the petition. I ask to please reconsider this project. 12 townhouses built in the middle of a street with single residential homes and right in the backyard of the 4 houses that were just built, high-end houses that were just built. These townhouses are going to be right in their backyard. This is not something that the neighbors want. So I want to thank you, and will you accept this petition?
Has it been presented to the county? It has not.
No, sir.
No, I have
Okay.
a copy of.
Board members, we would need a motion to accept this petition into evidence.
Mr. Chairman, in general, and the past practices of this board over the past close to 20 years, hasn't been something that the board has accepted. Only if the people on the list are there, they can testify in person. Through this process, witnesses need to be available to be cross-examined, and we can't do that with someone that's not here.
So you have no objection to it being submitted into evidence?
No, sir, I would, just in that the board's never done so. I would refer you to your legal counsel on that.
The petition, unless the individuals are here to be cross-examined, is purely hearsay and holds no evidentiary value. But it's up to you.
And I would like to add, in respect, we think as do, and very thankful our county attorney for chiming in, and we do want to be careful. We don't want to start establishing a precedence. When you start establishing a precedence, you get yourself in trouble. So the board, and Mr. Andrew Holm, who's been doing this for a long time, and Christian, we want to be careful with this board, because citizens are watching. We understand her diligence, we understand her effort, but these positions have to be followed basically according to what is common practice and what has already been adhered to.
So board members, if there's no objection on the part of the board, this petition will not be accepted into evidence at the Board of Adjustment level. Is there any objection to that?
No objection.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so let the record show that my petition was not accepted by the board.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. John Delmar.
John Delmar, 1622 East John Carroll Drive.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Basically, we had this meeting last month, and for reasons that I understand, we had to come back today. Since that time, Ms. Squasso went through an awful lot of effort, and I do understand that there's procedures that you have to follow. But I thought the whole idea of this was we want to do what's right for the neighborhood. And we also have to do what's right for the neighborhood and for the developers that's making room for people that live in this county. There is, as was pointed out, there are other projects that were similar to this that have been done in this area. I've lived in this area before any of that was done. I lived in that area before Sacred Heart was built. So I've seen a lot of changes, and they're good, but in our area, it was zoned for what it is. And now we have somebody that wants to build something it's not zoned for. It seems pretty simple to me. If it doesn't matter to the board what the neighborhood wants, what the people that live with it every day, not the developers that don't, but people like myself and the rest of these folks back here that could make it, then why are we really here? So I'm just asking this. I'm asking that you look at, and I know you can't even accept all the work that this lady did, but maybe we can somewhere else along the line, and maybe we didn't know the proper procedures to get y'all to accept it. But this neighborhood does not want this. These other developments that were done, this was an unzoned area, most likely when these older developments were done. And it was unzoned, so you could build anything. I was involved in that many years ago when I opened a business in that area. But I went, and I was fortunate enough to have that change made. But at this point, we've got enough traffic, enough people in the area. We've got so much traffic. These people on Tony Street, it's going to double, most likely, if you counted households, it's probably going to double the traffic flow. And the road's just not set up for it. There is a school there. There's a whole lot of children that walk. There's a whole lot of older people, just like in every other neighborhood. But I'm just saying this one's in saturation. So I appreciate that. If you just take that in when you vote. I do know that there's 8 or 10 rules that's already been met, criteria, but this one is about the people that live in the area. And I appreciate you very much.
Thank
all.
you, sir. Applicant, do you have any questions of the speaker? Staff, do you have any questions of the speaker?
No, sir.
Board members, any questions of the speaker? The next speaker is Jessica Ford.
Hello, how's it going? My name is Jessica Ford. I'm partner in Father-Daughter Properties. As our name probably gives away, the other partner is my father. You guys know him as Gary. My family knows him as Big Daddy. He's not able to be here because he had surgery last week. I think Buddy's already spoken on.
Ms.
and
Ford,
Yes.
do you mind if I swear you in before you give your
Absolutely.
testimony?
I'm sorry. I haven't done this.
That's okay. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
So I think Buddy's already done a great job of explaining the county, explaining that we do meet all of the conditional uses for what we're trying to do here. But I just wanted to introduce myself to you guys and to the community here. I'm a local, was born in Pace, Florida, born at Sacred Heart Hospital. Lived here my whole life other than when I did travel nursing for 6 years. And I just want to say for the record that, building a house, the other day I had the opportunity to have a lot of my subcontractors and trade partners and suppliers get together. And those are the people in this community that would be affected by this type of project as well. And it takes a village to raise a family, but it also takes a village to build a house. And there's a huge positive impact that could come from this type of development. So just wanted to say that and say that we've met the uses, I think, Buddy, and they have also voiced that as well.
Any questions of the speaker, applicant? Staff,
No, sir.
board members, any questions of the speaker? Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Larry Frank.
Good morning. Larry Frank, 1711 John Carroll Drive.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I moved into the neighborhood about 14 years ago. I've since retired from the time that I moved in. I do a lot of walking through the neighborhood to exercise. A beautiful neighborhood, very quiet during the day. As I go through the neighborhood and I walk every street there, increasing it as I can to see that much more of the neighborhood. And every lot, every house that I see is not like what's going to go into that particular lot that's being discussed here today. And my thought was when I first saw it for sale, I'm thinking, wow, there's going to be a pretty nice house that goes in there. And because that's the way it is in that neighborhood, excluding the two condominiums that were discussed, which are on streets that empty out on north-south streets rather than east-west. The one on Tony is on east-west, and it's a whole different makeup because of that. And I live directly behind Lanier Oaks, the condominiums there, and there's a lot of lovely houses throughout that area that take care of their yards and take care of their neighborhood. And what I see out of Lanier Oaks and what I hear throughout the day is not the same kind of usage. It sounds like a dog kennel behind me as I'm out working on the yard. And we all have, the house owners of that neighborhood have places to put their trash cans, whereas with Lanier Oaks, they're all out front, tipped over, garbage strewn about, and not a care from people that live in Lanier Oaks, not to come and lay anything on those people that live there, but that's what I see. And there doesn't seem to be enough care about their neighborhood to want to pick that up. And so That's all I've really got to say.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I'm against this.
Applicant, any questions of the speaker?
Not at this point.
Staff, any questions of the speaker?
No, sir.
Board members, any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. You may be subject to discussion further. Margie Nelson. I might have missed a letter in there.
That's okay.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
My name is Marjorie Nelson, and I live at 1610 Baca Lane, just on the other side of Tony. There are a lot of proposed places. I mean, there are a lot of places like what she is proposing. That's too many people. We are going to be not medium, but we will be dense in population. People buy these single-family homes, they rent them, their tenants don't care because they don't have a stake in it. We all do in our neighborhood. We like our neighborhood, we have a good neighborhood. I'm saying, don't do 12, do 5 nice little houses like the 4 in the front. I don't know that anybody would have a problem with that. Just don't do 12. I left California to move to Florida where y'all have dirt with your houses, and I just can't stand it. That's all.
Thank you. Applicant, any questions of the speaker? Staff, any questions of the speaker?
No,
Board,
sir.
any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, the next speaker is Nick Carvalis.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, bear with me, I'm nervous, I've never done this, but to start, this is to allow. We're asking something that's not supposed to be done. So you're asking to allow. My issues, my worries, I should say, is the infrastructure there. The road is coming apart. It's the original road. You get out there, I've edged, the road comes apart. Vehicles can't move back and forth. When you're driving down that road, you have to stop and let someone come, or you have to pull over on the side of the road. They've built 4 houses, and 3 of those houses are occupied to my knowledge. I'm there every day. I'm sorry, I'm 1522 Tony Street, I'm next door. On those 3 houses that are occupied, there's 6 vehicles and 1 RV. That's not even including the 4th house that hasn't been occupied. So that's a lot of cars, including they're fixing to be more cars. I worry about the trash. Someone already mentioned that, the cans on the side of the road. Where's the trash gonna go for 15 houses back there, 15 condos? They've put, if you look at that picture, they've put 4 houses there, and they're gonna put 15 behind it. Where's that space going? This gentleman here mentioned in his going down everything, sufficient, adequate. Those words are like the bare minimum. It's sufficient. That means it's just gonna be enough. It's adequate. That means it passes. And that's what everything seems to be, just passing. My other issue, care and concern. When I got there, now what they've done so far, they've put retentions in the back of those 4 houses to collect water. Water collects in the front of those houses. I implore anybody to drive down that street and look. The water collects in the brand new houses' driveways, and now it collects over to my yard. So I have retention water problems. It doesn't go to the backyard because I don't know home rules, laws, all that stuff, so I don't know, but I guarantee you that's built to the T of how it should be. And it's planned for everything back there. So it makes me wonder if y'all know Gary, y'all know Buddy, because I don't, but they seem to act like y'all know him. I don't. But it seems like everything's planned already. The road's built for cleared for that to go back there. The retention ponds are there. So is it already planned? Am I worth a speech? I don't know. I was born on ethics, integrity, doing what's right, and it just doesn't seem. My fence, when they cleared those houses, they plowed the trees. I had to come, all the trees are leaned over. The tree guy said, man, what they did to you was wrong, because they killed all the roots. But all they did was clear what they needed to clear. I took care of the rest. I know my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, any questions of the speaker?
Not at this point, thank you.
Staff, any questions of the speaker?
No, sir.
Mr. Smith, I
Director.
would like to say something.
Yes, please.
As the director, let me assure the community that, yes, we have worked with Mr. Bishop before, we have worked with Mr. Pace before. But, and I say this wholeheartedly and respectfully, my staff, Mr. Andrew Homer, my DRC team, when we look at these projects, if this project gets approved by the Board of Adjustments, there are other standards that must be applied. There are performance standards that must be applied when you start doing a subdivision. Those standards, they must be met. So this would not be the end. There are subdivision rules, there are stormwater management rules, there are roadway improvements that if it's approved, that must be met. So this is no guarantee that this is going to be the end of it. There are other rules and development that my team, who's very ethical, who got to abide by the Land Development Code, we will make sure that those rules are addressed, and if there's anything to make it better, we will let them know. Roadway improvements, stormwater improvements, retention ponds, all of those things. Just because you see this site, you may see those plans, that may not mean that that may be what will be built. This is just conditional use approval to allow them to go through this process if the BOA grants it. So this is not the end, and my staff, we do make sure that we follow by ethics, because that's what we all are called to do. I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you. Board members, any questions, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. I just want to add, just for the record, no, sir, I don't personally know Mr. Buddy. And, ethics is a word that was just used, and I have to sleep at night. I'm a member of this community. I'm a businessman in this community, and I don't do the buddy system up here.
Board, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had some questions for Mr. Homer. Could you pull up the definition? First, let's go to criteria 1 or I, a general compatibility. Could you pull up for us and give us the definition in the code for compatibility?
Yes.
And if you could read it, I'm afraid your vision's probably better than mine on this.
I have to pull it up on my computer. I can't see that one. Compatible. A condition in which land uses, activities, or conditions can coexist in relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time, such that no use, activity, or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another use, activity, or condition.
Understanding, and of course I know that the staff works with that definition every day. Let's go back to the aerial. I've got some questions now about it. First of all, the multifamily homes that are dwellings that are shown in the upper right, those are on Lanier Street. Am I understanding that?
Correct.
And am I understanding that those open up, their entrance is on Lanier? Is that right?
That is correct.
And is it my understanding that Lanier is a more of a thoroughfare, a north-south link between Creighton eventually and, well, is that right?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah, well, it links
1 minute,
Langley.
please. 1 minute,
It's
1 minute.
my point being that it's a more of a thoroughfare, is that?
No,
sir,
sir.
it's
The
not.
nearest thing that is a collector would be Burgess. These are
I
all
was-
local streets.
I was thinking though, as far as the traffic patterns that what I'm talking about.
Yeah, basically everything internal in that area, from Langley in the south until you get to Burgess in the north, are all local streets,
Absolutely.
north and south.
Yeah, I understand they're classified as that,
Yes.
but how people use them is not necessarily how they're classified, as we have learned and know, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. And
Uh,
we cannot be arbitrary and just
Absolutely.
decide if neighbors don't like it, change the rules. So we have
So-
to deal with what we've got.
And Mr. Godwin, and if I may interject, we need to be very, very careful.
Well-
We need to be very careful. When you get into transportation planning and looking at the network grid, as to do is absolutely right, we cannot be arbitrary. Because people, they do different road patterns, so we must be very careful.
Well, I understand what, and I don't mean to get into a transportation seminar about local traffic. My point being is that those dwellings, their entrance is on Lanier. And let's go back to the aerial again, if we could, please. And they do not touch Tony Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if I understand the testimony from the applicant and from the lay witnesses, and I understand that we have to be careful about lay witness testimony, but surely a person that's qualified to know what type of dwelling that is his own or her own home, and what the street that she lives on, what types of dwellings there. It's my recollection, and I wonder if you would agree with me, that the homes on Tony Street are essentially, for the most part, older single-family dwellings with new construction that, again, are single-family dwellings. Is that more or less, would that be your understanding?
Those, with the exception of an apartment complex off to the west, all of those you see in that aerial are single-family homes. Townhomes, while they are attached, they're single-family homes, they're not multifamily developments. Each one it's platted, everyone owns the ground underneath them.
Right.
They're all defined by our code, which we have to follow. We can't make it up as we go along. A single-family home is a single-family home.
I understand that, but what we're talking about is single family, essentially. As we look at the aerials in front of us, those homes are, and the evidence that's been presented, those are not what's being contemplated here by the applicant.
I think what you may be searching for is the difference between attached and detached, but they're all
Detached.
single family, yes, sir.
Help me, I'm old. So,
Townhouse.
so how, I don't understand, and I guess this is where I'm having issues with. I went over this again this morning, and I don't understand how that you would put 12 dwellings on a, I guess they're townhouse dwellings, on a lot, on a street that is essentially single detached dwellings, and how that can be compatible. I can't grasp it. That's entirely out of character for that neighborhood.
So I've got the definition here for you. This is an area of single-family dwellings.
Absolutely.
Townhouse is defined, a single-family dwelling constructed in a row of 3 or more attached dwelling units with each unit extending from the foundation to the roof, separated by property lines and having its own direct front and rear access to the outside. Our code doesn't define who can live somewhere or what arrangement is there. We deal with the structures and the spatial dimensions of the land.
But our code does talk about whether or not the developments have to be compatible with each other.
Absolutely. That's why we have that
and,
definition.
And understanding, and which of course everyone knows, and I'm sure the staff knows more than most, that every case rises and falls on its own merit. But if you recall, several months ago we had a case that maybe perhaps the circumstances were on a much greater scale,
Yes, they were.
but is than what we're talking about here, where the question of compatibility, a small single-family subdivision was faced with having adjoining apartments, numerous apartments, and if you remember, we discussed all whether or not that was a compatible situation, and the board found that and agreed with the staff that it wasn't. This, in my mind, is kind of on a much smaller scale. You have Tony Street, and you're putting a development in, proposed development, that is going to be entirely out of character with what is on the street now. And how is that compatible? I guess that's my question in a long-winded roundabout way.
So, staff has to play it right down the middle, black and white. I simply can't ignore 2 townhouse subdivisions immediately adjacent to this one and say that townhouses are not compatible with townhouses. There was quite a few differences with that previous case.
And Mr. God, when we do, and this is, we do respect your thoughts, and we need them because it's the BOA decision. But we must stay factual as well. As Mr. Drew stated, compatibility is more than just a street grid. It's more than just a road. Our DRC process will handle if there's any type of transportation network problem or any type of roadway improvements that will be needed. When you're looking at the adjacent contiguous property lines, we look at the area. You have townhomes right there. I mean, they are right in the immediate. So that's why staff had to look at it very, very objectively, not based upon the old case, because the old case you're referring to, there was very, very distinctive and a big difference, This right next door, same property boundaries, their townhomes right there, and that's what compatibility is the purpose of. It's something that's there that is outside the scope of the immediate, those property that are in close proximity. We do understand all those other concerns about traffic, and those things will be looked at. The street grid, all local streets. So when you, again, the close proximity, and I'm not trying to lay the concerns of the neighborhood, no, but I have to, my team, we got to be very, very, try to use objectivity and look at the standards. That's why Mr. Homer and the team look and say, this is compatible. Now, does it say all those units going to be built there? No. That will be looked at to see how it will impact the roadway. The roadway network is not something that we really look at when we talk about compatibility. That has another whole set of rules that this board doesn't really clearly look at, but that has another set of rules when it talking about the stormwater drainage, and we will address all of those things if this is approved and if they want to adhere to the standards. But compatibility, it is compatibility because it's right. Townhomes are right there. And they are single family homes. You just can't look at the appearance. You gotta look at the black and white definition, like we call to do that as we do our interpretations of what the black and white language of the Land Development Code says. And the comprehensive plan as well.
Mr. Homer, do you have a site plan that we can look at?
Yes, we do. I believe it's the last page. There you go.
And again, and that may not be the layout, so I want to be clear with that. Let's be clear. That's conceptual at this time.
From staff's viewpoint, is there any possibility of putting any townhomes on what's now shown as the entryway? Is there space for that, or is there just enough room for access to the back end of the property?
Correct. That common parcel, there would not be space for anything to be built in that common parcel.
And that's a private road from Tomey Street back to the private road? That's all private road?
So it's townhomes, once again, they're single-family subdivisions. They're either, and they are platted as to whether or not they wish for it to be a private development or try to dedicate to the public. That's up to the applicant. I would refer to them.
Thank you.
And that Mr. Marty, and even if it is either like we do with all subdivisions, even if it is they want to be private or public, for all subdivisions, they still got to adhere and be built to the county standards. Being private does not make the standards weaker. No, it does not. They got to be built, and our engineering department and development review, we look at those standards. So I want to say that for the record.
Are there any requirements by the county for improvement to the public street, in this case, Tony Street?
Once this come in to review, if it is approved, our access management department, our engineering department, they will look at all of those things. Yes, sir. We have to.
I believe we have additional speakers. More speakers?
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Page also has the right to rebut, too.
Do we have more speakers?
We do have more speakers. You want to wait?
Yes.
Okay. Sherry Carval's.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
Cherie Carvalho's 1522 Tony Street. Mine is more of a personal issue. So this house that's right next door to this property is my husband's grandparents' house. We've recently been able to get back into the property, so we're trying to fix it up. We've recently cleared, because we're almost on an acre of land as well, right next to it. So we've started clearing out the land to the left. We plan on there being children at this home. My confidence level, because I know exactly what's directly next to us right now and how close those other houses are, of how close those townhouses are going to be to our backyard, which is not wooded anymore. We've cleared it out back there. The property to the where they just recently built, where they cleared all the trees out, they did uproot all those trees. They left a line of trees on the opposite side of our fence, and those trees all bowed into our yard, which made it unsafe, so we had to cut all those trees down, besides the lack and the care and concern of the trash and everything that was caught up in that fence line all the way to the end. It worries me because we plan on keeping this house, and like I said, having children back there. No fencing. I have no idea, because we just got back into it, there's fencing that is broken down on our side. That's our fence because it's a metal fence. I don't know if that's from them cutting the trees from previous plowing through or what they had done. I have pictures. I don't know if I can show them of what I'm speaking about.
What you can do, it may not be germane to these points, but I really want to see those pictures, because if there's anything that was done, if it is approved, they're going to have to try to provide some.
Yeah, because
to rectify those
So
things.
they're gonna put, so where that red line divider is across this way, that's our whole backyard to the left of it. So they're gonna put how many condos in that same area that's the same size as our backyard? I don't understand where the grass or where the water or anything like that, or where any of that's gonna go, because at this time, with that last rain we had a water line at the bottom of our house. It's brick, so it's off grade, but the water line come up about this high on the brick of our house. We weren't there, so all I have is what it was afterwards. I don't know what it's like. I'd imagine it's flooded pretty badly, but there's no curbage on these streets either. You know, like my husband said, he's been trying to edge it out, but it's like just, it's an old street. You can't hardly fit two cars, and I don't know how two cars are gonna pass in that. And maybe they know, but the driveway that they have, that they've pretty much already set up, it's already sanded and everything. I don't know how two cars are gonna be able to go in and out. It is sanded, right?
It's not,
It's
it's
plowed
not
out.
prepared for anything at all
It's,
out there.
but you can
for
drive in
streets.
and out. I mean, it's got like sand and dirt. It's completely cleared out. It's got dirt.
It's not.
Okay,
Anyway, I don't know how two cars are gonna be able to even go to maneuver in and out. I mean, it's like almost a regular sized driveway that's there right now. And if they're going to put any kind of divider at all, I mean, they said no fencing, no noise, nothing. They're gonna be right next to children. It's more personal to me, and I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none. John Veasley.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is John Veasley. I reside at 1705 Tony Street. I have been at this house for 23 years. If you look on the map, you see the blue house, the blue tarp just in front of, across the street from the development. I live just to the right of that. I am against the addition of 12 townhouses at 1600 Tony Street. Tony Street is a short street that currently has 24 houses in the county section of the street, from Sanders on the west to Lanier on the right, on the east. This section from 1500 to 1709 has no cross streets. The addition of 12 townhouses at 1600 adds 24 garbage cans to the street. Where are they going to go? And I won't talk about the proposed driveway of the street since that's to be discussed later. Will there be enough room for ECUA's garbage trucks to go in there and remove those cans? Will the addition of 12 townhouses contribute to the already poorly supported drainage system for that portion of the street around the mid to upper 1500 section of the street that regularly has standing water after every heavy rain? The county section of Tony Street does not need to become a thoroughfare, or does this mean that we're about to get better county services? When can we expect those? The only ones benefiting from the townhouse project is the developer, not the community. I am sure that if I were one of the buyers of those 4 houses that were just put up by the developer, if I had known that townhouses were going to be back there, I surely wouldn't have bought one of them. Even with an 8-foot fence, I can't imagine any privacy on the back of those homes. We understand the right of property owners to build in the current zoning districts, but this one's not currently zoned for this. We also understand the counties want for more taxes, but we also understand that people choose to live on Tony Street. We chose to live on Tony Street because it was a quieter, less crowded street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? We have, thank you. We have 3 that will be duly noted as being against the project, but they do not wish to speak. It'll be Liette Griffin, Terry Cathers.
Catches like a ball.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And Betty Atkinson do not wish to speak. They are against the project.
Mr. Smith, to preserve the record, I would like for them, because you never know what is going to come up, and I want them, their voice to be heard, counted as, from them, as either yes or no. I'm trying to, if just in case you never know what, come in, you can say it for the mic. It's better, trust me. It's better. Yeah. It is better. That's all. We just want to try to, trust me, it's better, okay?
Put a name to a vote.
Yes, ma'am. That's all.
A name to a face.
Yes.
Yes. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Terry Catches, 1509 Tony Street, and I'm against it. I've lived there since I was 5 years old, and I'm 66.
Okay, thank you. Is there any speaker that we did not call? Yes, please.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Betty Atkinson, and I've lived in my home for 63 years on Tony Street. We bought it when it was new. And that short street, that's where all the children go to school, homes. And they all walk. And on my deed, it says single dwelling homes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm against.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there another speaker that didn't get called? Did you fill out a blue sheet?
She did.
You did?
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
As you know, my name's Lyetta Griffin. I live at 1701 Tony Street. Again, please address the infrastructure and accordance with Department of Health. If there's standing water, there are mosquitoes. Please, please. Thank you.
Is there any other speaker? That being said, Mr. Homer, I believe it's time for staff's summation.
Yes, sir. Code being what it is, we have to deal with the code, the black and white of the code, and it's staff's opinion, the application as submitted does meet the required criteria.
Okay. Mr. Page, would you like to make a closing statement?
Yes, sir, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have listened to all of the 11 speakers and their comments and their subject of their comments. 4 of the speakers indicated that traffic is going to be apparently a real problem in the neighborhood. I would submit to the board that the townhouses that are being proposed in terms of AM and PM peak hour direction traffic will generate 52 trips per day. Tony Street is like any other residential street. 52 additional trips per day on that roadway is well within the capacity of the street. Maybe not to the liking of people that live on a street that was not very busy over the years. I live on one, had probably 10 cars a day back when we first moved into the area. There's a little over 600 AM trips per day on that street, still within the capacity, but not necessarily to my liking. But Mr. Chairman, the number of various subjects here, drainage seems to be one that comes up. The staff has explained that drainage is something that's not necessarily approved or rejected by this board, certainly one of concern and consideration when you hear the comments on it. But those types of things are part of the engineering package that's reviewed by the Development Review Committee right across the hall right here every Wednesday. That application and all the plans will be turned in for continued review and approval of that department. So I understand that, and the people are certainly, as you heard said by the staff, they're certainly welcome to come down and have comments specifically about where a piece of pipe goes, where the water goes, the capacity of these types of things. Those are engineering matters, but not uncommon to be mentioned at a forum like we have here today. The fencing, The infrastructure concerns, one of the last comments made, please take a look at the infrastructure. That's exactly what they do across the hall when those detailed set of construction plans are submitted. Mr. Chairman, I would submit to you that anytime an applicant needs to do something in the county, fills out a package to be submitted, that package submitted, our application that's here today, is governed by and is supposed to develop responses to 8 criteria, and you've seen them on the board. Those 8 criteria, the very first one talks about compatibility. Criteria A, general compatibility. The staff weighs those types of things, but my point in all of this, all of the things that are required in this application package in terms of subjects are things that are related to county standards. Your staff, which was sworn in at the beginning of the meeting here today as expert witnesses, they have reviewed the application. They have reviewed the county rules and regulations, and out of all 8, the staff recommendation is that they met all, or we met all of the criteria, and they have recommended approval, Mr. Chairman. So I would submit to you that we've done all that we know to do in terms of the process and the procedure. Staff has done their review. Their summary is before you here today, and we ask for your support for the staff recommendation and our request, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
And Mr. Smith, I want to assure the public, if this is approved by the board, there are other reviews that will be necessary. Preliminary plan, construction plans got to be met. Then eventually it got to have the BCC approval. So this is just we're looking at a 30,000 foot level. So that there will be those areas of concern. If it is approved, y'all can come in, y'all can look at the plans, can talk to my staff, if it is approved now. And I promise you, you may be surprised at what this DRC team gonna require and what they must do if they want to continue.
Board members, any questions of staff? Any questions of the applicant? The chair will now entertain a motion regarding this item. In your motion, please state whether or not you adopt the staff's findings of fact. If for any reason you do not accept staff's findings of fact, please go through all the criteria and address each one specifically as to why you do not concur with the findings. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept staff's findings of fact.
Motion by Jennifer. Do we have a second?
And approve the conditional use? Is that your motion?
Sorry, yes. And to approve the conditional use.
I'll second.
We have a second by Marty. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I can't support it because I think that if compatibility means anything, that allowing 12 townhouses on essentially a quiet suburban street like this with single detached homes as a rule just is out of character for for the request, and that's the issue that I have, and I don't think I could support that. There is one thing, the linchpin of the applicant's argument, or one of them to me anyway, it seems, is these Lanier Street multifamily dwellings. I would just say that if you look at the aerial, those dwellings aren't near Tony, well, I guess near is sort of a relative term, but they aren't really touching Tony Street. And I'm just, like I said, I think there's a real compatibility issue.
Can I get the staff to pull up a bigger, broader aerial of that area real quick? I just want to confirm something for my own. Okay, the red area is the subject parcel that we're talking about. And then on Lanier, we've talked about the townhomes on Lanier, and then y'all had said something about is that Sanders? Okay, is that a townhome or an apartment complex?
That's apartments.
Those are apartments.
One parcel of land not subdivided into single-family units like a townhouse.
Okay. And then you said something northwest, was it, that you had duplexes?
Mr. Page was
Yeah,
pointing
Mr.
that out.
Page, can you?
I think Mr. Page submitted an aerial, and he outlined 4 other projects that supposedly were showing these other types of multifamily, if I'm not mistaken. It might be helpful if you would maybe look at that. That might be what you're looking for.
Yeah, those are the 3 that we had talked about.
You'll notice, though, those are not what I would, especially number 3, what I would consider, we're talking about a small neighborhood here, and none of those touch that neighborhood. I suppose in the wider scheme of things, you could make an argument that area does have these, as Mr. Page's aerial shows, does have these multifamily dwellings. But they don't have it in, we're talking about a micro neighborhood, a single street that is basically a single detached homes, if I'm saying it right, Mr. Homer. and it's a micro neighborhood, and and what's being proposed for that specific street is just way out of character. I mean, it really is. 12 of those plunked down in the middle of a street that doesn't have, on that particular street, really doesn't have anything like that in that particular area. That's my problem. And if compatibility means anything, surely it means something here.
Mr. Godwin, if I may, I'm not, just trying to have a clear understanding. The definition of compatibility says what they can coexist in harmony. In harmony. That's what they can coexist in harmony. And that's the purpose of having a mixed-use development. Looking at those existing, believe me, if there was no existing contiguous close in proximity, this probably would be a different case. But when we look at the definition, what they can we just can't focus on that road, because there are other avenues for that to take care of. But in close proximity, mixed-use development, in the vicinity of that area, that's what we have to look at when we looking at the definition at a objective manner. Compatibility. The street grid is not the only criteria that we look at when we look at compatibility. Uses that are similar in nature, similar in uses, in that same general vicinity, because all those roadways have challenges, every last one of them.
Any other questions? Okay, would you repeat your motion?
My motion is to accept staff's findings of fact and allow the conditional use.
Thank you, and you're okay on the second, Marty?
Yes.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion fails.
Mr. Shack, you seconded. Did
Yes.
you vote?
I voted, by
Oh.
not raising my hand.
Even though you seconded the motion?
I seconded the motion. Seconding the motion doesn't mean I have to vote for for approval of the motion.
Okay, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we deny the staff's recommendation on the basis that the evidence presented by the applicant, the lay testimony presented by the witnesses, to the extent that testimony simply talks about what kind of home they live in and what type kind of homes are on their street. And also from the expert testimony that we've heard from the staff, that if this, approving this proposal would be out of character and incompatible with the existing Tony Street land, Tony Street dwellings as they exist now.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Griffin to deny the staff's findings of fact on this conditional use. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Marty. Any discussion? Seeing none, we call for the vote. Four, three. Motion failed. Denied. Conditional use is denied.
wait a minute, because, I mean, at first you said yes, then you said no, so we need for it to be clear going forward, we need.
Who's in favor of that motion?
Wait tonight.
Okay, 4-1.
4-1. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
All right, moving on to the next case. It's conditional use 2023-09. 1841 Kingsway Drive. Board members, has there been any ex parte communication regarding this case? Seeing none, does anyone have knowledge or information obtained from a site visit or other sources? Seeing none. Does any board member intend to refrain from voting due to a voting conflict of interest? Seeing none. Would the individuals who are party to this item please come to the podium, identify yourselves at this time. Please state your name and address for the record and wait to be sworn in by the clerk.
My name is Mark Toller, 1841 Kingsway Drive. The record lists my name as David. That's my first name. My mother calls me by my middle name, so that's what I've been doing for 64 years. So that's the reason I'm going by Mark.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
And you have received a copy of the staff's findings
Yes,
and
sir.
facts? And you agree with staff's findings
I
and
do.
facts? Would you like staff to summarize those, and then you can make any comments if you
Yes,
would
please.
like? Mr. Homer?
Yes, sir. So what we've got before you is a conditional use and a variance. Both requests are on the same piece of property, both related to the same project. What's requested through the conditional use is to have an accessory dwelling on a lot less than 2 acres. The code says in that zoning district of LDR that to accomplish that, to have an accessory dwelling on a lot less than 2 acres requires conditional use approval. Staff is recommending approval of this use. At the same time, we have the variance case. The variance case is dealing with the county's setbacks and where this accessory dwelling could go. There's some physical limitations on the site, including a protected tree that the applicant would like to preserve, and staff is recommending approval in both instances. I would say that the variance, to keep in mind, this is to the county setbacks, not to any sort of HOA regulations or anything like that. That's a civil matter outside of our purview. That's the summation. Do you want me to go through findings on each and the maps, or how do you want to do this? I don't believe we have any speakers.
We have no speakers. Would you like to make any comments? Are you okay with the?
Do you have a copy of the site plan? As you can see on this site plan, we have, I've taken and surveyed the trees on the lot and laid them out so that you can see that when my wife and I constructed this house in 1993, we intentionally located our main structure to the north in order to preserve that live oak tree immediately to the south side of the house. That's a rather large oak tree. We have photos of that. But as you can see with setback lines, things changed with zoning, I believe in 2014. It used to be about a 5-foot setback was required on rear and side property lines, and now they've changed those restrictions. That precludes locating this house adjacent to the existing structure and being attached in any feasible manner. This is proposed to be an apartment-type residence for my mother. She is gaining in age. She's 82. Her husband is currently 86. He's in health is beginning to fail him, and they need to move back into Pensacola with family. All of our families located can help assist in their health care, their well-being for the rest of their life. I'm the only sibling that has property sufficient size to build an apartment like this and give them a place to live independently, and then still be close enough that they've got help when they need it. So as you can see, we're asking to locate that accessory structure to the south property line. The current setback criteria is 14.5 feet. We're asking for 10 feet, so we can move it about 4 feet further away from both an existing septic tank system and that live oak tree, so we can preserve the root structure on that tree. Like I said, when my wife and I built the house, we preserved as many trees as we could, and we intentionally located the house to the north to preserve that one tree specifically. It's the largest of the live oak trees we have on the property. And if you want to see a photo, I believe there's a photo was put in. I also brought a different angle of the tree, but that's it by my wife's car there. That's the large oak tree, and we'd be building to the left of that. But as you can see, it's quite a large tree, and we want to do what we can to preserve it on this property.
Okay. Board members, any questions of applicant? Any questions of staff? Therefore, the chair seeks a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the conditional use as presented. It appears that this will be for a good cause in the certainly, but it appears, given the configuration of the property and the vegetation and trees located on it, that this seems to be a logical and request. So I would move we approve it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Godwin that we adopt staff's findings of fact. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Willie. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously. Our next case is variance 2023-02, 1841 Kingsway. Are you the representing
Yes, sir.
it again?
I am.
All right. Would you like, you've received a copy of staff's findings of
Yes, I
fact,
have.
and you're in agreement with that?
Yes, I am.
And if you would like, we'll have staff synopsize that.
I believe they did that when they presented the first case already.
Oh, you've
Yes, sir.
already done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's
All
one
right, then.
one
We have a
complete
motion, we
package.
have a second. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
This is a separate one, though.
Separate.
Yeah.
You need a separate motion.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve according to staff's findings, if that's proper.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
There we go.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next meeting will be July 19th.
Do we have cases, I hope, for that?
I'm gonna ask Miss Rachel, do we have?
We have one case next month. I think it's just for outdoor storage.
Okay. So one case next month, and nothing that I'm aware of on the horizon regarding appeals. We'll see.
Counselor, is there anything you need to share with us?
Well, I wanted to clarify, you may second a motion for the sake of discussion.
Yes.
And you are not obligated to vote in favor of the motion. That is absolutely correct. So I wanted to clarify that. I was concerned that there was confusion, since there had been so much discussion and that perhaps there was a misunderstanding about what motion was pending and whether we were approving or denying at that point. And so I just wanted to be absolutely certain that that was the intent.
That was the intent.
Yes, so
And we certainly appreciate your,
it's
Input.
an unusual, typically with this board, if
case-
someone seconds, they
case
vote in favor.
is on the
Or they say second for the sake of discussion.
Oh, okay.
So, but not that you're required to, so, was just wanted to be sure, we were all on the same page about what was being voted upon.
well, we had a couple of strange situations there, so. we
Mr. Chairman,
continue.
I think we also ought to thank Andrew and his staff for the job they do. We sometimes don't always agree with their outcomes, but I know that we certainly appreciate his work, and we would be lost without him.
Well, thank you, sir. That's why this board is here. It's not staff's decision. That's the whole point. Thank you.
If there is no objection, the meeting is adjourned. And there is more rain forecast. Now approaching 20.